Hi, fourth graders. Miss Semick here. And for Thursday's lesson today, we're going to talk about our author's point of view, also referred to as the author's message. Now, as readers of nonfiction, it is important that we determine why the author chose to write a particular text. Now, this is going to help us understand the important points that the author wants us to learn and remember about the subject or the topic. So, the question I ask you, what is the author's point of view? What do I mean by the author's message? Well, the author's message is all about why the author chose to write a particular text. You make a deliberate decision to write about a subject matter. You guys in your writing, your nonfiction writing, you thought about what you were passionate about, what were you fascinated about, and then you had to come up with some important points, some important main ideas about that particular subject or topic. Okay. Now, before we get started here, what I want you to do, if you just have a piece of notebook paper, I want you to make my tree map here. Up at the top of your tree map, I want you to write down author's point of view. We're going to figure out what is the point of view of the author. What's the author's claim? What is their viewpoint on this particular subject? It could be positive, it could be negative, but what is their point of view? I want you to draw 3 branches. 1, 2, 3. You're going to find 3 separate pieces of evidence that's going to support their point of view in the article we're going to be reading today. Okay? So you can pause this video so that you have time to draw out that tree map there before we get started. Otherwise, if you're ready, let's take a look at today's article. Butterflies. So we're leaving behind snakes here. We're going to move on to another living thing on butterflies. And as I read aloud, okay, I want you to notice and think about why the author wrote this article on butterflies. She definitely has a reason for why. Okay. All right. So listen carefully as I get started. Butterflies by Beth, Wagner Bruce. The future of tropical butterflies and other tropical species is linked to the future of the rainforest. While butterfly farms in many parts of the world help to conserve butterflies, they don't do much to save rainforest habitat. But in Costa Rica, a program called Proyecto de Mariposas, or Butterfly Project, does help the rainforest. And look, they've inserted here a map of Central America just to give you a better visual here of what we're talking about. And Costa Rica, is a smaller smaller country. Somebody needs to learn how to speak today. This smaller country right here in Central America. Okay. Now, for many years, the villagers of Barra de Colorado, Costa Rica, lived by fishing. Now there are few fish for them to catch. Commercial fishermen from the neighboring country overfish the area by using large nets called gill nets that trap great numbers of fish at one time. With no fish, the people of Barra del Colorado became very poor. Today, they are learning to use some resources of the rainforest in a way that won't deplete them. This is called sustainable resource use. It allows people to benefit from nature and encourages them to be its caretaker. So I can already see here, we're talking about the time with butterflies in the rainforest, and I can see already something that's happening in Costa Rica that was a problem, and then what people are doing to change that problem. Okay, so let's examine more about this rainforest here in that area in Costa Rica. The rainforest of Barra de Colorado was logged 50 to 75 years ago. Its beautiful hardwood was made into furniture and wall paneling for people in the other parts of the world. After a rainforest has been cut down, the soil erodes and loses its nutrients. It takes many years for the forest to grow back. Now there is a strong regrowth in the rainforest. Villagers are being taught how to make a living from the forest without hurting it. They will farm butterflies to earn money and preserve the forest that is the source of the butterflies. So they're pointing out that this is important here. We've got to have the rainforest, right, in order for the survival of this species of butterflies. It says more than half the world's plant and animal species live in the rainforest, just like this one. All right, so the children of Barra de Colorado convinced their parents that butterflies could improve their lives. A team from the Zoological Society of San Diego suggested Proyecto de Mariposas as a science project for the local school, which goes to the 4th grade. First, villagers cleared a garbage dump next to the school for the butterfly farm. Then they planted vegetation that would attract butterflies to lay their eggs and give caterpillars plenty to eat. The butterfly garden and the nectar garden will benefit the community instead of enriching just a few. Let's look down here. The people of Barra de Colorado now sell their butterflies to exporters in San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica. The children of Barra de Colorado have shown that with projects like these, people can live in harmony with nature. So you see this beautiful monarch butterfly here is one of the 1,300 species of butterflies that now live in Costa Rica. All right, so pull that tree map back out, okay? My author obviously has a very strong opinion about butterflies. Okay, we can tell that from what she has mentioned in our article. I noticed the author was very clear in stating that the future of the tropical butterflies is linked to the future of the rainforest, right? So I wonder if the author wrote this article to encourage us to save one or both of these. What are we thinking? Should it just is all about the butterflies, or do we also talk about the rainforest as well? So based on the information that we have actually read, as well as my own knowledge about problems with the rainforest, I can draw a conclusion or even infer that the author feels strongly about how people should live in harmony with nature and take care of natural resources. So let's go ahead and put this author's viewpoint. They want to encourage inhabitants of the rainforest to use their resources more wisely. So that was definitely my author's point of view, their outlook, and they were trying to get that across in the article. Now, what was the evidence? Now, I don't want you to think just yet, do you agree or disagree? I don't want your opinion. I want the author's opinion first. So what was one of the pieces of evidence they gave us? How do we know it was about encouraging using the resources more wisely? Let's take a look. Remember what it said in the very beginning here. It talked about how people had overfished, and now the people of Barra de Colorado are very poor because there weren't any fish for them to actually farm at that point, okay, to take from the waters because they've been overfished. Now they're using sustainable resources here to help try to find that balance. So again, if you need to pause your video to add in that evidence on your tree map, please do so. That was one, how they started off the article. What was something else the author did to show that it was all about encouraging using their resources wisely, besides trying to use sustainable resources? Remember that when people cut down the rainforest, the soil is going to lose its nutrients, and it takes a really long time for that rainforest to grow back. So people who lived in that community were learning how to not cut down so much, right? To not take away from the environment when they were using resources from the rainforest. Okay, pause again if you need to copy that down in the second part of your tree map. Now, what about the last part here? Especially when we get to talk more about the children. What were they doing? Let's see. Remember the villagers cleared a garbage dump and planted vegetation for a butterfly farm. So they were trying to encourage people to try to bring, right, the butterflies back, because if we have a healthier environment, then the butterflies are going to be there and help out just that community and all. Okay, so we have finished our article, and we've determined that the author's point of view on this topic is to encourage the inhabitants of the rainforest to use their resources more wisely. And we've included 3 separate pieces of evidence that we know that help us point out that author's point of view. Now, do you agree with the author's point of view? Sometimes we call that the POV. Why or why not? Think about that. If you're at home, maybe discuss with a parent or a friend nearby. Okay, now, let's take a look here before we end today. I have another short little paragraph here about a very popular soda referred to as Pepsi Cola. Okay, let's go through and we're going to try to figure out what is our author's point of view. Okay, and what are some techniques that they use to help defend their point of view? All right, you ready? We'll read it and then we'll look at some answers together because this will be kind of similar to your exit slip for today. The invention of Pepsi Cola. Have you ever wondered where Pepsi comes from? It's produced in factories, of course. But do you know where the idea came from? The answer is from a man named Caleb Bradham. Mr. Bradham was a college graduate who attended medical school. He had to drop out of school because his father's business was going bankrupt. He moved home and opened a drugstore in New Bern, North Carolina. He had a soda fountain in his drugstore. In 1893, he invented Brad's drink to be served at his store. 5 years later, he named it Pepsi Cola. He thought that it was a healthy drink because he said it would help with digestion, and Pepsi sales are still strong today. Don't know how much we can defend maybe Brad's drink today, but this is the stance here. Remember, we can't always just throw our opinion. Let's read from what we're seeing here in this particular passage. So according to the author, why did Caleb Bradham say that Pepsi Cola was healthy? What did it say? It was a healthy drink because A, it soothed sore throats. B, it gave you energy. C, it helped with digestion. What was it? It was definitely C. C. It helped with digestion. I can see it right there in my evidence. Now, why do you think the author included the fact that Caleb Bradham went to medical school even though he dropped out? Why do you think we included that bit of evidence? Was it A, to show that he wasn't a hard worker? Was it B, to let us know that he had a medical background, which allowed him to open a pharmacy and later invent Pepsi Cola? Or C, was it just to give us an idea of how old he was? Why do you think the author included that? If you're thinking B, I believe you are correct. Okay, so he did have a medical background. That might kind of help persuade people about, yes, it was a healthy drink with digestion. Okay, but it did also allow him to open a pharmacy. All right, last one. What technique does the author use to explain how Pepsi was invented? Did they tell Brad's story here in a sequence of events? Did it go like in a chronological order? Were we comparing or contrasting two subjects? Are we simply just describing the object? So it says here, it talks about how he was a college graduate, right? And then this is what happened before he moved home. And then it even gives us a date. And then 5 years later, I hope you've picked up on those signal words because it is AAA, sequence of events. All right. So for your exit slip today, I have a fascinating person that you may or may not be familiar with of Elvis Presley, okay? So in your Google form, if you'll go in and read about Elvis Presley, and you're going to answer simply 3 questions for your exit slip today in the Google form. Those who are face-to-face, I've got a few extras that we will practice with in class. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. We've got one more tomorrow. It's Friday. Until next time.